Okay, so I'm back a week after I did the jet washing of the walls, just having a look at everything now. It's feeling quite dry, actually. Most of the floor is dried out. There's a little puddle at the front where there's quite a big dip, but very little compared to what there was before. It looks very mucky, but I sort of expected that. There's a lot of paint and old mortar that's sort of washed down and lots of dust. And there's still a lot of paint on the walls, so I need to work out how I'm going to get the rest of that off. And I haven't quite come up with that yet. I'm going to try a few things like a wire brush, a crowbar to get the bigger ones off, and just try and scrape. But I really need to get as much of it off as possible for any new paint to attach to the wall properly and actually cure properly. So that's one of my jobs today, try and strip a bit of the paint off, and then hopefully in doing that work out a better way to do it. And then I'm going to do a bit of measuring up. So I want to know the internal wall area so I can calculate how much paint I'm going to need. I want to do a measurement of the floor, just have an idea of how much concrete and stuff I'm going to need, and also do a bit of a sketch plan of how I can see the place laying out. Obviously it's small, it's limited, but it would probably pay off giving a bit of thought to where things are placed. In my mind, I can still see the coffee roaster going in the corner over there, but it does have a bit of a weird angle there, and it might actually end up losing space doing that. So I do need to give that a bit of thought. And then I do still have in my mind potentially doing a level above, but I know it's going to add complexity, but it's definitely worth considering. So measuring today, and I'm also going to measure the outer wall because that'll be quite a good job to do fairly soon while it's sunny, just repointing. There's a lot of old cracked mortar which could just do with tidying up while it's good weather. So jobs for the day, and I will update as I go along. So this afternoon I've been doing a little bit more work on the layout for the stable and how everything will fit together with the roaster in place. As you can see from what it currently looks like, it's sort of a square. It does have a funny angle at the back. That's because the front of the stable is about 3.9 meters and the rear of the stable is about 5 meters. So there's a long side on the right, which just means that it's a little bit more difficult to lay out. It is also very small. It's only about 25 square meters, say 250 to 300 square feet. So it has to be a creative layout. Luckily, the roaster that I'm looking at is quite small, so that's something you can work around. And I'm not going to be storing a ton of coffee, as in maybe I'll be storing 1 ton of coffee, but I won't be storing lots and lots of coffee. So I've given myself provision for a couple of pallets, and if I find that that is just too much, then, or at least too much for the stable, I can probably provide other space either within the farm or at another local place to keep that in good ambient condition. So I've taken the rough dimensions of the stable and have now put together a really rough layout. This first one I looked at putting a little mezzanine floor in. So as you can see, this guy here, he's sort of standing in the doorway. I haven't put the doorway in properly and haven't put the window in, but this is the front of the stable as you look at it. This is the side wall on the external, and then this bit is where the other buildings are attached. So I put a mezzanine in here just thinking, well, you know, it's got quite tall ceilings, maybe I could utilize some space. There wouldn't be a lot of space up there, but there would be enough to, yeah, for sure have a desk and store some other bits and bobs up there. The only problem is accessing it is going to obviously need steps. And even with really compact steps, like a sort of step ladder, it does take up a lot of space. So at the moment, circulation space is very limited here, having that step ladder there. And I'm not even sure if that would be compliant with various regulations. So I'd really need to know that it was obviously compliant and would be enough space left to be worth doing that, because that's going to be a lot of work putting that in place. But it does mean that I can put a couple of pallets of coffee underneath. I can have my roaster in the corner with the ventilation going up. I haven't quite finished that yet. Some packing and just general sorting over here, and a sink and some other desk space here, which can be used for obviously not a lot, because you're gonna have to walk past the steps to get there. But to be fair, if the steps are in place, this desk doesn't need to really be there, because it could be up here and there could be a bit of admin and all that sort of stuff up the top. So I'm not ruling this out, but obviously putting a mezzanine deck in is going to be expensive, and then putting the steps in is going to be expensive and maybe complicated. So it's got to be really worth it. So I have a simplified version which removes that mezzanine or deck and just assumes that we're working with the ground space that we have, and it's Obviously, without like the little columns and everything, there's more ground floor space, and this is very basic at the moment. I haven't really done too much work on this, but I think even without the extra space upstairs, there is room to have a basic operation going. There's room to get the coffee in, there's room to do some packing, and obviously roasting. The roaster's there at the back. And it was always going to be the plan that this stable was the beginning of the roastery rather than the end game. It starts everything off, and then once it gets to a certain capacity, then I'll have to look at upsizing to some more space. But that's fine, because this is really how I want the business to start, in this small, modest space, and to sort of organically grow from there. So I'm just going to do another quick practice roast on the Cafe Logic. I've got my sample from Antioquia in Colombia. This is a blend of Castillo and Colombia, mainly Castillo, 90%, and it's been naturally processed, a double fermentation for 8 days. So it's likely to have quite a fermenty, sweet taste. And it has got a really sweet smell, so I'm expecting this to be quite interesting.